everybody, and welcome to a new episode of the We're So Young podcast. Today we have Edson Jean, an actor, a writer, a producer. What else do you do, Edson? Who are you? Tell me.
I direct. I chill at my house and watch TV. I read. I do a lot of things.
You cook?
I cook.
Forgot to mention that in the first three.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
A little bit about myself. Well, I'm a Miami transplant, so I'm living in Miami now, but I'm a transplant in the sense that when my parents migrated from Haiti, they came here to Miami, and my older brother and my eldest sister were born here. And then the family moved up north to like West Palm Beach area, Palm Beach County, Delray Beach. I was born in St. Mary's Hospital in Palm Beach. Grew up in Delray and like Miami on the weekends.
Oh, I didn't know that actually.
Yeah, because we had family friends down here. So my mom would bring us here on the weekends and we'd take trips, and we also like, sometimes it was just a babysitting occasion. And when I graduated from high school, I moved to Miami and stayed here, and I've been here for a couple years now. More than 10?
More than
I don't
a
know.
couple
I don't
years.
want to count. I think it's been like 10 years or something like that. Maybe a little more than that.
Cool. And what got you into the like field and the realm that you are in right now? Like you are a man who wears many hats.
Yeah. Well, being Haitian, I grew up with the experience. Every couple nights, my mom would sit us down, and she would share these Haitian folklore stories, which are called blagues, right? And blagues are stories that traditionally were told in Haiti during combits, and combits were sort of like potluck dinners that were had after like groups of Haitian families in a community would help one family like plow their yard, and then after, everyone would sort of just fellowship and eat and get together. Mm-hmm. And those combits, there was always around the fire, stories were told, and those blogs were told. And so it's very much Haitian culture and tradition to sort of tell these folklore stories that have song and dance and different elements, sometimes riddles. There was always a moral underpinning and a way to teach the generations to come the ways of life. So my mom would tell us these blogs, so that was sort of my introduction to story. And I fell in love sort of like with the way my mom was animated, and she would tell us these stories. And then I guess that had an effect on me. I didn't realize in that moment, but then I went through high school just being a class clown and pretty like disruptive in school. I was a big troublemaker.
Yeah.
And and so it wasn't until an English class? This guy, Mr. McManus, in high school. This was like sophomore year in high school. I got kicked out of an art school freshman year for music, and then so now I was in the public school in my area, in Delray at Atlantic High, and he was like, you're Edson, I want you to talk to me after class. And I was like, okay, another routine. I'm in trouble. He's probably gonna give me a little lecture or whatever. But he's like, hey, have you tried this thing called drama? And I was like, what? And so like small town where I grew up, like hood mentality, I wasn't exposed to things. I didn't even know drama was a thing. So I was like, nah. He was like, oh, you should apply for it as elective next year. I was like, all right, whatever. So then I remembered when it was going around, when you got to choose your electives for the next year, I was like, oh yeah, that drama thing he was talking about, whatever. I checked it off. Next year, this is junior year in high school now, I walk into this drama class and my mind is blown. I'm telling you, because like all my life I've just been being a clown, and I realized, people get together and do this seriously? This is a thing? And that really opened up my mind and changed the trajectory, honestly, of where I was going. I didn't really even have a plan. I was kind of just doing enough in high school. I had like a 3.0 GPA, so I knew I'd be okay with bright futures if I was going to go to college and pursue whatever. But it was in that year where I was like, oh, acting is a thing. I can pursue that. And then a lady friend of mine from the arts high school I went to, she was an actress over there. So she would like legit mail me handouts from that she would go through. So that's how I was sort of like teaching myself some like the basic 101 stuff of acting.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And because in my public school, it wasn't an art school by any means, so it was just a random drama class, but you weren't getting in depth, sort of like.
What were you doing in the art school for music before?
Oh, I played trumpet.
Oh.
Yeah, I played trumpet, and I still play on occasionally, random, if like I go back home to where my mom is in Delray, and like the church wants me to play in a Christmas service, so I might do that. I haven't done it in like 3 years. But my brother does it all the time. But I might jump in, like, play with the brass or something like that. I need to pick that up again. Because I don't practice as much. It's kind of like whatever. But, yeah. So I used to play the trumpet. And I was in the music thing. And then that whole transition happened. And then from there, I was like, yo, I was basically teaching myself and, like, taking these handouts and, like, reading from how she filled it in, and like learning the basics, like things you wouldn't have known, like read the whole play before you perform the monologue so you could understand the context and things like that. So I went into auditioning for schools with that rough basic education when it comes to theater in mind. And
for colleges, you mean?
Pardon?
For colleges?
Yeah, what'd I say?
Just for schools. I just was.
Schools, colleges, universities.
The post-high school.
Undergrad. Yeah. And so I got accepted into FSU, actually, and New World. And I don't know what it was, but I was feeling New World over FSU, honestly. And, everybody's like, oh, FSU is great training. And, they do that. I don't know. I walked in there, Patrice walked around the school, and she was just talking about the school. And I couldn't even tell you what at the time. I just was like, you know what? And maybe I just liked that Miami felt more of a city than Tallahassee. Maybe that was it. Because you have to understand also Haitian parents have no idea of this kind of thing. My mom the whole time is kind of like, are you going to get a minor in something else? They don't really see this as a real career. So they didn't have the education to tell me whether FSU was better for me or New World was better for me. It was really my choice. And that's great because they supported me in that. So then I got into training and I trained, and then after that I did stuff, and then fast forward, I'm here doing more stuff.
But something that I love about you, Edson, first of all, I've known you for possibly the amount of time you've lived in Miami, so like about 10 years. Maybe a little less. No, like, yeah. A
little less, but around. Because I met you like after 2011. New World, so I was already here for 4 years.
Yeah, so 2011 we met for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Which, fun fact, we are actually recording at the same place we met, which is pretty cool.
Oh! One time for Playground/MTC. Stephanie Anson, we see you.
We see you. We see you. She's going to be on the show, too, actually.
Oh, that's not
but, yeah, so for as long as I've known you, you're just like, it's like, who is Edson Jean? You know what I mean? Like, you're just like a ball of mystery, yet like you're so open, so I don't even know. I'm just like, well, who are you?
I guess you don't really know someone. I don't know if you ever know someone.
You don't ever.
I guess you gotta spend a lot of time with someone to be like, oh,
So
I'm also not on the interwebs, so that's probably.
Yeah. So something that I think is amazing is that you are actually, first of all, you're really humble when it comes to all of your work, which I really admire. But not only that, like, you work a lot, and unless people like just straight up just know you, like, you wouldn't know because you don't have any social media. What is your stand on that?
I mean, my choice has been growing with time to stay firm in the initial choice I had several years ago, to not go on social media. It was a basic moment, but because of that, I never went on it. And then when I started to see what social media had become, I was just like, great, I'm not on it and I won't get on it. But it started when MySpace came out. My brother was kind of the most technologically savvy out of the three of the boys. And he was like, oh yeah, this MySpace thing, and he pulled it up. and I was kind of looking over his shoulder and seeing what it was, and then like he was looking at like the top 8 or top 4, whatever that is, that thing.
Yeah.
And then he was, and I saw some of our friends and people that we knew like on his top 8, and he clicked their profile and went through some of their pictures, and I was like, wait, I know this person, and on these pictures in their profile, they seemed like the most fun person in the world, but I knew this person. I was like, what? That's not him. And in that moment, literally in that sort of moment, I was like, I associated, at least in that moment, MySpace with like a facade and things that weren't authentic, and I just didn't want to take part in like putting up a fake life.
I mean, it's so true.
Yeah, I guess I didn't realize what it would become, what it is now. But in that moment, I was just like, nah, I'm not into it. And then because I said no to that, when all the new ones would come, I had no interest. I was like not in the world, so there was no need to. I was not even curious.
You're such an anomaly, because I feel like in this industry, it's like instilled how important and blah 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 blah. Yet like you are possibly one of the most successful people I know.
Oh, right.
And like you don't, like, it's just so crazy to me. And yes, it is all fake. Like I've said it multiple times on this podcast. Like I post stuff possibly when I'm feeling at my worst. You know what I mean? Like, wow, it's just like it's horrible. It's
There's
the
definitely
worst.
a social dynamic that exists in that.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting that you say that, because people like to compare the two, like, oh, you're working and you don't exist on social media, and how they should be or can be comparable. But that, in fact, is like an example of sort of the trajectory of all the work I've done, is usually when someone has come up to me and told me, yo, you have to do this, or you need to do this, and that's how you get success, I question it. Just off, like, that's my knee-jerk reaction. Whenever someone tries to establish some social norm or some supposed rule, that's not a real rule, because we all know there's no there's no one way to get to wherever you want to be.
Right.
So whenever someone imposes a rule for me, I go, do I have to do that? And that's sort of been with all the decisions I made. I kind of had that moment first, and then either I go the other way, or either maybe I say you're right and I open up to it. But social media was sort of like the same thing, because I heard that too, like, oh, you need it if you need to be whatever, and I was like, wait, do I?
Yeah.
And I guess.
Which is amazing, because it's like your talent just speaks for itself. So like it's just it's awesome, you know.
At the same time, I do feel that it definitely has a lot of strengths, and therein lies the balance, right? Figuring out how to exist and operate and use the advantages of social media and the internet for positive change, because I do believe there's a huge benefit from it. There's a way that we couldn't have before reach people, spread messages. Just as people are probably putting negative messages, we can be echoing positive messages and messages that send positive vibrations and different things that can change the world for the better. So I'm not like telling people not to be on social media. I'm just like, just for me, it hasn't been my jam.
Let's talk a little bit about writing. Because from what I vaguely remember, when I first met you, you had something on HBO.
Oh, okay, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Tell me about that.
Well, that came from just the thesis project in our school. We have to do a one-person show, which we have to write, direct, and star in on stage for New World. So having to do that, I had this show written for the stage that I performed in, and then afterward, I just had the thought that this could be a film, like a short film. I didn't know anything about film back then. I just had the thought. And then I went to Google, and I said, how to make a film. And then literally like that, I realized that a lot of the characters I played in that piece were some actors and were some of my friends. So I said, I can just cast you all in these roles and just shoot it, I guess. So that's how I went into it. So the writing started with training and understanding basic writing structure through theater. And then I transposed that into screenwriting and did a lot of reading and stuff like that to learn format and things like that. But all of that was accessible through the internet. Mm-hmm. So And then, so I basically just changed my stage performance into a short film, and then got into some festivals, and then licensed to HBO. And I was like, all right, maybe you got something here. You should probably keep doing this film thing.
That's nuts, man. Like,
Yeah,
that's crazy.
so then it was on to the next.
How
one
old were you when you started that? When that happened?
Fresh out of undergrad, so 22, 23, something like that. 22, so yeah, something like that.
And would you say that that's like the catalyst that got you to start to do like film and TV?
To start to do film and TV, yes, because once you do something by yourself, you realize you can do it.
Right.
And I wasn't aware of that in the moment. I was just kind of excited to do something, and then that something became something, and then it's like, all right, let's keep doing some things. You know?
So after that, what happened? Like, where'd you go from there?
So me, creative partner Joshua Jean Baptiste and Marie
Who
Karina.
was part of your boys talking podcast?
Oh, Y'all Boys Talking, yeah, he's
So
in Y'all Boys
they
Talking.
were actually, we did a crossover episode 2 episodes ago, so you
Oh,
get to
cool,
listen
cool,
to Josh.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got all my homies here.
You're bringing everybody there. We should just do a podcast with everyone here. Well, I definitely follow the mindset of work begets work. So that idea is I'm always having multiple sticks in the fire. I'm always working on something, or several somethings so I have different projects at different points in the trajectory, whether it's development, whether it's filming, whether it's just it's baking in an idea, it's just a thought. And so after the Adventures of Etch and Jean, while I had a year that I was licensed with HBO. As soon as I signed that contract with them, I was like, on to the next project. I didn't even want to even really focus on S&G and kind of see how far I could push it. I just like, let that do its thing, and then let's start writing something else. And that at the time was a web series, which was #Josh, which became Grown, but we were just writing a web series. We eventually pushed that to make it, we had the idea to make it a full-fledged TV show. So then we were shooting 8x30, so 8 episodes, 30 minutes, and that's just writing it. That's just writing it in our mind. We had no connections to, even with my relationship with HBO, it was in a different sector. You have to understand, because HBO film is in New York, and HBO LA is completely two different departments.
And you were with the film.
Yeah, I was with the film because I sold the film through there. So even if it's HBO, the conglomerate, HBO Film is in New York, and they're based over there, and I knew a lot of the people over there, but not the ones in LA. So I still, even after that, I was still at a place of like, my foot wasn't really necessarily in the door in the industry. More than others, sure, I could have conversations with people, I could send them things, but by no means in the LA space. And so we wrote this thing, we had no connection, we were just writing it to write it, because we figure if the work exists, the opportunity will come.
Exactly. You might as well
instead
just
of kind of waiting for an opportunity and then, which some people don't agree with, because then you're working without getting paid. But so far, it's balanced out perfectly.
Yeah. No, I'm with you with that. It's just like, just do it and then see what happens from there.
Exactly. Which we will get to later, because now I'm changing that motto. Or that, who knows if I'm changing it, but there's something new. So then we won Project Greenlight, had an inaugural digital series competition, and we were like, we already had this whole thing written, and we like consolidated it, and we're like, all right, let's pitch it as a web series, because we could, originally it was, and then so some of the footage we had already shot for the web series, we used in our pitch video, and then we won the thing, and we're like, oh damn, all right, because it was a national competition, and it's like, all right, we won this thing. But what's interesting is that was a competition for like $25,000. And when we Skyped with them, I was like, yo, guys, I know this is a digital series competition, but check out these scripts. And they realized the idea we pitched was much larger, and we had already written content for it. So work begets work. The work existed. We had scripts to show. Then they were like, whoa, this is way bigger than what we thought it was. They liked the concept, but now they saw we already had built a world. We had characters. We had a whole thing written.
Right.
And then that's when I think it was like a week or so after they called us. It was like, oh, Ben Affleck wants to fly you guys over. I'm like, okay, cool, let's make that happen. And we were actually doing a show here at MTC. Oh no, Josh was doing a show here at MTC when that happened. I think he was directing his first theater show. Was it?
Oh yeah.
Them Bows, or was it? It was something he was doing here. I don't know. He was doing something, and so we had to leave in the middle of that, and that was cool. So then we went out and we shopped it as a full show. We sold that to Complex Networks, who just opened up sort
with
of their.
With the help of Greenlight, or like.
Yeah. So there's a through Greenlight, there's a company, production studio, Adaptive Studios, which is the production company behind the brand, right? And they're the company that we were in cahoots with, and Pearl Street, which is Ben and Matt's company. So yeah, that happened, and then we're like, okay, cool, we sold this thing, and then for what was supposed to be $25,000 for a couple million, and we were shooting it here, like in a year or half a year, 6 months. Things moved pretty fast once they moved.
That's nuts.
And that happens, yeah. So there's that. So yeah, and then Grown came out, and it came out last year, and that was really good, well received. Complex Networks eventually, they didn't continue to go into premium content. It was a new thing for them, because they do things like Hot Ones, and they do a lot of unscripted editorial things. Mm-hmm. But they wanted to step into the premium content space with our project, and I think 2 or 3 other ones. But eventually they're not continuing it. So right now, Grown, which was on Complex, available to watch, is not, and now we're shopping it to get it to a bigger network. But while that's happening, you know what I'm doing? More projects, working on the next one, working on the next one. Yeah.
You just won like an award for a documentary in Puerto Rico, right?
Oh, you heard about that?
That you shot in yeah. I do my research before at least a little bit.
Yeah, we won. That's another random thing. That was the first documentary-esque thing I've ever done. I didn't consider myself a documentary filmmaker, but then me and this really great cinematographer, filmmaker, Mike Atwood, he does a lot of work with the UN and kind of a lot of like video journalism. Mm-hmm. And he wanted to go over there to do a story over there, and he wanted someone who can sort of hold him tight on the narrative element and establishing a story, because he could grab a beautiful picture or grab a beautiful image and things like that, but the story is most important. Like, how do we relate and empathize with the people?
What was the story about?
It was about 3 entrepreneurs in Puerto Rico who didn't know each other and who were establishing a new sense of independence on the island outside of the colonial situation that exists in Puerto Rico, a very complex one at that. And we wanted to shed a light on Puerto Ricans post-Maria that were really doing a lot of positive things and like establishing their own sense of independence. Outside of the narratives that were out there, everything on the news was very negative and not highlighting some of these beautiful things that were happening in the country. Of course, granted, you need all those things, the negative things that happen, in context to what's happening. So it's not that we ignored that or shied away from that. But in this, there was like this lady, Christine Nieves, who took her whole barrio, Mariana, off the grid and is intending to put the whole barrio completely on electric and not dependent on the system at all. So like doing things like that is a huge task, and amazing that she's doing that for and during the post-Hurricane Maria, she fed people through a soup kitchen that she revitalized over there, and had people come in and just bring whatever they had, and just like with that they were just feeding people for months on end after Hurricane Maria. So yeah, it's about that. It really follows Christine Nieves and Fernando Samalat, who is a photographer out there in Puerto Rico, and whose whole purpose years ago was to show Puerto Rico in a beautiful light so people can fall in love with their country all over again by just seeing it in ways they haven't seen it before. Mm-hmm. Because there's so many natural treasures over there in Puerto Rico. But yeah, so, and then we did that. We said it's in the festival run right now. So I guess the news about the award that you heard was just a festival that passed maybe 2 months ago, at Rincon Film Festival in Rincon in Puerto Rico, and then there's Enfoque, was another large festival in Puerto Rico, which we got news that we won over there too, like 3 awards, and we just got our first stateside official selection at Atlanta Short Fest, and that's happening in like next weekend.
Nice.
So yeah, we're gonna be screening over there next weekend. I think.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. What's the film called for anybody listening in Atlanta?
So it's called The Seeds We Sow. But yeah, it's in Atlanta Short Fest, July 11th through the 13th. I think we're the first or second day. I think they have a documentary night, and we're screening that night.
Solid.
Yeah.
And so this allowed you to travel? Did you get to like go over there and just kind of?
Oh yeah, that was a great experience. We went over there. I spent how long? Over a week, maybe 10 days, and we were just all around the island spending time. Christine was so happy because we were just doing a lot of we didn't know anyone, and
Right.
this guy who had spent some time doing aid work over there, Jesse Levin, had some contacts, basically shared them with us, but it was up to us to introduce ourselves and make that happen. So I was basically doing that on the ground producing when we got there, and they were so kind to open their home to us, so we kind of just hung out them for a while. We were in the mountains, and Utuado. We were in different places, and spending time with these subjects and their habitat and how they sort of explore the island. But yeah, that was a great experience for me. Also, I got to work on my Spanish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which you're not so bad at Spanish. Like, you understand at least.
Yeah. I mean, I speak.
You
I
speak.
speak now. Yeah.
Yeah.
I made it a thing to learn conversationally. Or learn more. I'm still pushing myself, but I'm conversationally fluent in Spanish.
Yeah.
If we needed to chop it up right now, maybe for a second I could. But yeah, I understand. For sure, understanding is easier for me.
Yeah.
But I could definitely speak it. Yeah.
So let's talk about your motto changing or adapting.
Yeah. Well, work begets work came from the idea of continuing to create content and write stories so that when the work exists, when the opportunity provides itself, you already have the work there, and that work existing will also attract and manifest these opportunities to come to you. Mm-hmm. Just the existence of it attracts conversation, it attracts dialogue, it attracts opportunity. But that mindset for me, I realized this is a really, really fresh epiphany, maybe about 3 weeks ago, that mindset is based off the idea that I need to wait for opportunity. And which is a mindset that I think a lot of us in the creative space have, even more so in the acting, filmmaking space, because the way the industry has been formed, it's formed in a way where success comes from the hand of the big industry, and a way to establish a lifestyle through our craft and solely through our craft, predominantly most of the time is through the industry. Yeah. And that's whether it's a major network, a production company funding you, and there's this always this need, this hustle, this anxiousness of hoping you make it and all these things when right. And rightfully so. I think I've had this epiphany in the right time, because years ago what I'm about to speak to wasn't accessible because technology wasn't where it is now. Right. But technology is at a place where, I think this is the first time I'm speaking about this out loud, so it might be rusty. But technology is at a place where things are accessible. And people have been saying for a long time, make your own film. But they've been speaking of it in the indie sense. Make your own indie film, take it to festivals, let that breed opportunity from you to eventually do what? Be seen by the major industry, or get a major industry, sell it big, or it's always sort of at the end game of being part or taking place in the big industry machine. There isn't anything wrong with that. But if all your eggs in that basket, you aren't necessarily setting up yourself for an entrepreneurial venture as an artist. And it's so interesting to me because so many artists, including myself, like to call ourselves entrepreneurs and do this thing.
Right.
But we're so beholden and so dependent on the industry.
On the weighting of like the...
Yeah, we're not very much entrepreneurs.
Right.
We're kind of just like working on our own and figuring things out and how to like be pieces of things as we sort of hope for something to really kick off for us. Mm-hmm. But very few of us are really establishing an entrepreneurial mindset in the sense that we're making a business out of what we do. For the longest, like I mentioned before, it's been very hard to do that because filmmaking is so expensive. It's been so expensive to sort of find a business model that would be equivalent to the small business model in filmmaking. Because filmmaking just takes so much to make. And so when you spend so much on it, you depend on marketing, you depend on the system to able to help you let it be seen or put it in the right places and the right distribution for you to recoup on whatever you spent, even if it's not your money or your friend's money or your mom's money or whoever.
Right.
But I just like films. I took part in this film. I was acting in it a couple weeks ago, and the quality of it was sound, and more importantly, the budget in which they shot it with was like extremely low. And extremely low in a sense where they paid their actors, they paid who they had to pay, and they made the film happen. And it made me realize, and I knew this before, but sometimes you have to see something. And I realized I can make a film for so much less. So my new thing now is I'm really moving to establish sort of like a small business venture in the space of filmmaking. But now it can work because if you're good and you have yourself a good story and you make your film for barely nothing and you spend your money on the noise and you only focus locally, you can be very successful with making a small film. And I think that's also the big idea is like people make content, they feel like the whole world has to see it for it to be something. Do you know how many people live in Miami alone?
Right.
If you just focused on small businesses, focal on their local community. Like, a small business restaurant doesn't open up and try to sell their hamburgers in Wisconsin. You know what I mean? If they're opening up in Miami, they're focusing on the people in their neighborhood. So why don't we embrace that same mentality with filmmaking, especially if you're speaking to a specific demographic, as in the Haitian Americans, the Caribbeans, the Latin Americans that live and thrive here in Miami. I'm going to be making work that speaks to them. There's several million that live here. If I make my film for, let's say, $20,000, I only have to get 30,000 people to see the film to make my money plus more. And Hollywood doesn't have to take part in it. And I'm actually, more importantly than anything, sustaining myself, creating a way where, look, I made a film, I made my own money off of it, I'm going to make another one. I can make 2 or 3 in a year. And then because of that, my friends and actors are going to be cast in my films, and it's going to create this whole snowball effect. I had this idea 3 weeks ago. I'm so on fire for it that I'm already starting to write the script for that. I've already started now, and Josh and I have been brainstorming. But yeah, I'm not going to wait. And now that I said it publicly, it's out there.
Now it's out there.
So everybody can go and do it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, think about it, too. When we live in, specifically in Miami, you can't do that everywhere, right? Because, like, if you live in a place like New York or L.A., for you to do the things that I ultimately have in mind to do, you'll be competing against the huge mecca that are those cities.
Yeah.
Miami is one of those, the trifecta in the 3 major cities, but at the same time, it's a Wild West. You know what I mean? So if, for whatever reason, a billboard shows up with the film that we're going to do late next year, we're going to be the only film doing that. There's no films ever on billboards here in Miami. You have Morgan & Morgan law billboards or other random things. And not only that, you're speaking directly to your community. Yeah. And self-distribution is becoming a thing more and more and more right now for film. So I don't know. It's kind of what I'm on now. It's not
smart. Don't
make work beget work for the opportunity. Just you can make your own, even more so now than ever. You can make your own work quality, make it, bam. But it starts at the script. Like, this is not going to be a film with 20 locations going everywhere.
You know what I mean, yeah, you have to logistically be smart about things like that. Okay, so it like literally blows my mind because you really are always doing like so much, and you're just like, yeah, whatever. I'm Edson Jean, you know. You know, like you would never know any of these things, which is like it's great.
Yeah, I guess. I guess I don't talk about it much. It's kind of strange for me to be talking about the things that I'm doing now. Not even everything. There's more things that are happening, but
You see?
yeah. I think a big thing in that though. I'm also not stressed. I'm also not like. I know how to work with a team, and I also, more importantly, when I graduated from UWorld, I said I'm not gonna get a 9 to 5. So I can dedicate all my time into just creating. So that is the big difference. A lot of us have jobs, and it takes a lot of their time. Like right now, I'm directing at a cable stage. It's great. It's a creative job, and it's only momentary, so it's perfect for me. I'm in there for a month and a half or whatever. But the difference between now and like my regular life is drastic, because I usually have all day to do whatever I want to do, schedule my writing sessions,
Right.
research. It's my time. It's a lot different when you have to split that for a 9 to 5 in order to make ends meet, So that is my secret weapon that a lot of people don't have.
What do you end up getting stressed? Like, what's like, you and Josh, actually, because I mentioned this about Josh in the other episode. It's just like, you guys are two of the most like positive people that I know. You know what I mean? Like, you guys just have like just I'm chill energy. You know what I mean? And
Life
it's
is
like,
good.
exactly.
It really is.
And it's what are some like home things you do to like kind of decompress and just kind of,
I've always kind of been this person, and I've heard it from other friends and things like that, like, oh, Edson, you're always blah blah blah, you're happy, blah blah, and I don't know where I get it from. I just really, somewhere early on, maybe it was from my mom, because she's a ball of joy, is I just got this real deep appreciation for life. And once I just realized this thing called life is awesome, and like there are ups and downs, and you go through heartbreak and you feel things. It's not that I'm one level, one tone, but ultimately I really believe everything happens for a reason. So there isn't a time, I don't think I could, there isn't a time where I hang my hat on something for too long. Just my understanding of what life is, everything literally happens for a reason. So I don't even, sometimes when, I don't know if I agree with the idea of failure, just because of how it's associated within our minds. One door opens, another door closes. If that door doesn't, one door closes, another one opens. If the door doesn't close, the other one doesn't open. So if you really truly believe that, whenever something happens, you're just like, oh, I can't wait till the door that's going to open. Like, you already know, like,
something
life is so repetitive.
And
yes, it's hard in the moment when you're feeling it and the thing happens and you're like, ah. But I don't know. It's kind of, and I don't know. I practice yoga. That's something that I really do. I enjoy. I meditate, not religiously. I meditate like on my own time when I feel the vibes. More recently, I've been doing a lot of self-love work. So like a lot of reading, a lot of listening to certain podcasts that instill that ideology and getting rid of the ego, and just being a vessel, because I believe that is like the most important thing for an artist, to identify that it's not about us and we're just a vessel for story and empathy.
Yeah.
So like learning that and taking the time to put back positive words, positive energy into my spirit is sort of like my thing that I do, I guess.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you could tell the little boy listening to your mom's stories anything, what would you say?
All right, I don't want to be a party pooper, but I don't think I'd tell him anything.
You'd just be like,
because
okay.
my life is awesome right now, and I couldn't imagine an Edson being like, yo, telling me something that's about to come. Like, that would run my life, because
It's
I'd be
true.
thinking about it. I would not be in the present moment, and I don't. There's no warning. It's like, and it actually goes hand in hand with what we ended up talking about just now about a door closing and a door opening. You're not able to experience life in a way for you to grow from it, to learn from it, to be joyful from it, to hurt from it, if you would have known something.
Right. If you don't just let it
prevent you
take its
like,
course. Right.
It's supposed to be what it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was supposed to be that jerk that cheated on that person. Like, okay, I'm gonna give a Kanye quote, but it makes all the sense. He said, I forget what song it is, but it's like, they always told me to right my wrongs, but the same wrongs helped me write the song. And that song is obviously giving him multi-millions, and he's able to like express and create because of the life that he lived. That, in a nutshell, is just an expression of just life is going to be what it's going to be, right? And I wouldn't tell him anything. Maybe I'd say have fun. I'd give him some generic thing like enjoy it, be in the moment, like stuff like that. Yeah, be in the moment, because that would just be reiterating what I believe.
But I love that, actually. I love that answer, because it's so true. You know, it's so easy to kind of wallow in things that are happening to you at the moment if things are bad, you know what I mean? And it's so easy to kind of go over how great your life is when things are really good, and be grateful and be appreciative, and not just kind of see like the path of where everything is,
I think, and I say that also with pain and hurt. I think it's really important too, because when I say my life is great, I don't say it in the sense like everything's peachy, I have everything I want. Those things are true, and I am blessed, but I would say that in the same breath as, for example, when my grandmother died. Life is amazing. The opportunity to be able to even feel these feelings, to have loved and to have been loved and to lose love. There is the whole circle of life. And that is like, there's just so much beauty in that.
Right.
Not staying too far on any side of the spectrum, because we don't want to end up wallowing in pain and hurt so long that we're depressed, and we don't want to live so much in ecstasy and joy that we're oblivious to the pain that balances us all in life. But I mean that in the full spectrum of things, for sure.
It's the idea of just being present.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And just, that's great. And I
You're
love
great.
this interview. It's so good. Okay, so we're approaching almost the end of the episode. So what's something new that you've tried recently that you haven't already spoken about? Because you talked a lot about new things.
Something that's not creative. I like talking about non-creative things.
It could be creative. It just, you've already talked about a bunch of things that you're doing new. Yeah. Something else.
Oh, wait. So what was the question? What are some things that I'm the new things, right?
What's something new that you've done recently?
That I've done?
Yeah.
Oh, not that I'm doing. Something new that I've done.
Or that you're doing. Doesn't matter.
Something new that I've done. I feel like I'm doing new things all the time.
I always stump people with this question. It could literally be like, I'm starting to eat breakfast in the mornings. You know what I mean? It could be like anything like that.
What is something new that I've done? Well, I rode out to the Everglades on my bike. That was really cool. At the Shark Tower. At the Shark Valley Tower.
You rode from here all the way down?
No, you ride out there and then you ride like a 17-mile bike ride or something. Yeah. That was cool. I haven't done that. And that was cool. Saw some gators. It was chill. That's something new that I've done.
All right, I'll take it.
Yeah, I'll give
And
you
what's something new you want to try?
Something new I want to try, I'm going to try, I'm doing it, is a triathlon. So I'm training for that now.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that goes down November 9th, the Miami Man one in South Miami. I got to start training for the swimming portion. I feel like I'm good with the running. I'll be good with the bike, but the swimming. And then I got to do all three on the same day.
Yeah,
so,
that's true.
But
That's true. How are you going to train for that?
I'm
What does
gonna
one
pick up
find
3
cool?
months before, because what I did the other day, I didn't know how far behind I was, relatively speaking, in my mind. I just want to finish the race. I'm not trying to beat a certain number.
Right. That's the way to do it, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then again, so one day I got up cold turkey and I ran like 10, 12 miles or something like that. And I just wanted to do it cold turkey to see how far I would get, and to see, because I think the running portion in the Miami Man is like 13 miles or something like that. So I just wanted to see how far I would get, so I would know how much I would have to train.
Right. But
And I
you're
did the whole
also
thing
just-
cold turkey.
Yeah, you're also just like really fit, and then you also eat really, really well.
Oh yeah.
You eat like really well. You put me to shame.
Man.
We're in rehearsals, and I'm here just like, here's some plantain chips, and you're like, here's avocado.
You're funny. Hey, I just like, I really believe the body is the temple. Not even in a religious sense, just like, it's like one of the only things that you really actually have. It is yours, and
Right.
you're gonna be carrying it throughout life. And it's hard for us to understand that in young age. But man, there's so many people that are gonna wish they took care of their body more when they get older.
Oh, yeah.
Because I still want a great quality of life when I'm older, and because I got plans, you know what I mean? I got a life. Like, I love this life thing too much to want to go out early. Now there's people that are like, oh, I'm done after 60. Good for them. All right, eat whatever you want, because you don't expect to be here. But life is too amazing for me to
Right.
cut it short, unless God wants me to go, and then I'm out.
Then that's a different story. But,
Yeah.
but it's not going to be on your account.
Mm-hmm.
Is the thing. All right. Well, thank you so much for doing this.
Nah, thank you so much for having me. This was
No.
really fun. Like,
Huh?
I don't talk about my
That's
process.
what I'm
or
saying.
whatever.
I'm telling you, I do this selfishly just to hang out with friends and talk about how awesome they are.
It's great. You probably learned so much from doing this.
I do.
You're lucky.
All right. Well, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
Thanks again for listening to the We're So Young podcast. Like what you've been hearing? Help spread the word. If you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. Rate, review, and tell your friends about We're So Young. And don't forget to follow us on our socials, at We're So Young Podcast on Instagram, at We're So Young Pod on Twitter, and We're So Young Podcast on Facebook. Let's all get inspired to try new things together. That's it for now. Tune in on the 1st and the 15th of each month for new episodes. Until then, step out of your comfort zones and try new things, 'cause we're so young.